My dad kicked me out of his 60th birthday party because my brother's perfect girlfriend was a charity star. They shamed my job until she spotted me on a call and froze. Sophie from Truth Seekers. That's when they begged for help, but I was done saving them. Thanks for joining us today. It's great to have you here. Before we get started, let us know where you're from. Leave a comment with your city. Now, let's pick up the story from where we left off. I'm Sophie, 32, and I live in a little brick house just outside Denver, where the mountains sit like old friends watching over me. Every morning, I shuffle into the kitchen in my slippers, brew a pot of Earl Grey, and flip on the news while the steam curls up around my face. It's a simple routine, one I've carved out for myself running a small investigative journalism firm from my home office. Papers are stacked on my desk, stories waiting to be told, and I love it, the quiet thrill of chasing truth. But my family, mum, dad, and my older brother Liam, they're an hour away, and we haven't spoken in 3 years. No calls, no birthday cards, not even a "how you holding up" after a rough winter storm. It's like a door closed, and nobody bothered to knock. They don't get what I do, never have. To them, I'm still the kid who'd come home with ink on her hands from scribbling in notebooks, while Liam was the star, tall, charming, the one they'd brag about over coffee with the neighbors. I used to think I'd catch up, prove I was worth something too, but 3 years ago, that hope crumbled. Now I'm just Sophie, the one who slipped out of their story. I don't mind the silence much anymore. There's peace in it, like the hush after a long day, when I sit on my porch with a mug, watching the sky turn pink over the Rockies. Sometimes folks at the grocery store ask about my folks' small-town habit. I guess I just smile, say, "It's been a while," and leave it there, not hiding, just tired of explaining. I've got my work, my little house, and a life that fits me now. But back then, I thought family was forever. The kind you see in old TV shows, where everyone gathers around the table laughing. 3 years ago, that picture broke apart, and I stopped trying to piece it back together. This is where I am now, alone, maybe, but not lost. It was a Tuesday in late October when my phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, cutting through the hum of the dishwasher. I wiped my hands on a dish towel, expecting a client, but the screen said Mom. My heart did a little jump. Calls from her were rare, like spotting a deer in the backyard. "Sophie," she said, her voice warm but thin. "We're throwing Dad a 60th birthday party next month. Nothing big, just family. Can you come?" I stood there, holding the phone, picturing the old dining room table covered with Mom's scalloped potatoes and a cake from the bakery down the road. "I'll be there," I said, already mentally shuffling my deadlines. For once, I thought maybe we could sit together without the usual strain. A week later, I called to firm up plans, my planner open on the desk, a pen tapping against my tea mug. Dad answered instead, his gruff hello pulling me back to years of clipped conversations. "I'm driving down Friday," I said, keeping it light. "Need me to bring anything?" "Extra chairs up high." There was a pause, the kind that makes your stomach tighten. Then he cleared his throat. "Sophie, about that Liam's bringing his new girlfriend, Clara. She runs a charity. Real classy. We'd rather you didn't come." I blinked. The pen stilled. "What?" I managed, my voice catching. "Your job," he said, like it was obvious. "All that digging into people's business, it's messy. Embarrassing next to her. Just stay home." The line went quiet, but I pressed on, heat rising in my chest. "You're serious? You're picking her over me?" His tone hardened. "Stay away. Sophie, that's it." Then the call ended, leaving me staring at the phone like it had slapped me. I set it down and walked to the window. The mountains blurred through a sting in my eyes, my hands curled into fists, nails biting my palms. I'd spent 3 years wiring money, $11.20 total for their rent, their groceries, those little extras they never asked for but always took. I'd log into my bank app late at night, transfer the funds, and watch the balance dip, telling myself it was fine, they needed it. Mom would mention a tight month, Dad's meds, and I'd cover it. No fuss, no thanks expected. But now, standing there, the math hit me hard. $300 a month, every month, for 3 years. and they couldn't even save me a seat at the table. I sank into a chair, the cushions sagging under me, and pulled up my bank records on my laptop. There it was, line after line, $300 stow mom and dad, automatic, reliable, like clockwork. I scrolled back, the numbers stacking up, and something twisted inside me, not loud anger, but a quiet ache, the kind you feel when you realize you've been carrying a load nobody else bothered to lift. Liam never chipped in, not once. He'd breezed through town with a grin and a new car while I was the one juggling bills to keep them afloat. And yet, here they were, ashamed of me because some stranger, Clara, wore a better mask. The room felt too still, the tick of the clock too loud. I thought about calling back, begging them to see me, but my throat tightened, and I couldn't. Instead, I poured another tea, though my hands shook a little, and sat on the porch as the sun dipped low. The air was crisp, the kind that settles into your bones, and I wrapped my sweater tighter. I wanted to go, really wanted it, picturing Dad blowing out candles, Mom fussing over plates, maybe even a laugh or two, but they'd drawn a line, and I wasn't on their side of it. That night, I didn't sleep much, just lay there listening to the wind rattle the shutters, wondering how you stop being family to the people who made you. It wasn't dramatic, no big fight, echoing in my head, just a slow, heavy unraveling, like a thread pulled too far until it snaps. A week after Dad's call, I was still reeling, nursing a bruised heart with too much tea and late-night news reruns. Then my inbox pinged a rare email from Liam. Subject line, need a favor. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the delete button, but curiosity won. He wrote about Clara, his girlfriend, saying her charity was up against a rival group spreading lies. Could I dig into them? Use my skills to help her out? You're good at this stuff. Sophie, he typed, then added, you owe us for all we've done raising you. I stared at the screen, the glow harsh against my tired eyes. Owe them, after they'd shut me out, but guilt gnawed at me, those old family ties tugging like a frayed rope against my better judgment. I replied, fine. Send me details. For 3 nights, I pored over records, tax filings, donor lists, anything I could find on this rival outfit. The house was quiet, just the hum of my laptop and the occasional creak of the floorboards. I'd pull my sweater tighter, sip cold coffee, and keep going, chasing a thread that never unraveled. Nothing shady turned up, just a small non-profit doing decent work. By Thursday, I emailed Liam. They're clean, no dirt. His reply came fast. Curt, keep looking. Clara needs this. I didn't respond. Something felt off. Why was he so desperate? But I let it slide, too drained to push back. Then, Saturday morning, my phone buzzed as I was scrambling eggs, the kitchen smelling of butter and toast. A text from Mom. Clara's upset. Says your nosy job could ruin her reputation if you keep poking around. Please, Sophie, don't come to the party, it's best for everyone. I set the spatula down, the eggs sizzling unattended. My breath caught, a sharp little hitch. First they called me an embarrassment. Now my work, the one thing I'd built, was a threat. I turned off the stove, the room suddenly too warm, and sank into a chair. They'd twisted my help into a weapon against me, all to protect some woman I'd never met. That afternoon, I sat at my desk, the mountains outside my window, grey under a heavy sky. I opened my bank app, the same one I'd used to send them money for years. My finger hovered over the recurring payments, $300 a month, every month, for rent, groceries, whatever they'd needed. I'd set it up after Mom called once, voice shaky, saying they'd fallen behind just a few months. She'd promised, but it never stopped. Now, staring at the screen, my hands trembled, not with tears, but with a slow, simmering fury. I tapped cancel on each one, watching the little green check marks vanish. It wasn't loud or dramatic, just a quiet severing, like snipping a thread I'd held too long. I leaned back, the chair creaking under me, and let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Liam's email flashed in my mind, his "you owe us" stinging fresh. I pulled up his message again, rereading it, and a question settled in, soft but heavy. When had he ever helped them? I remembered him dropping by their house with takeout once, all smiles, while I was the one wiring cash from my account, month after month, 3 years of it, $11.20 so, and he'd never lifted a finger. Yet I was the one they pushed aside, the one they blamed. That night, I stood in the backyard, the air crisp and biting, a blanket draped over my shoulders. The stars were out, faint against the city glow, and I hugged myself, feeling the weight of it all. I'd tried to help, bent over backwards for them, and they'd turned it into another reason to keep me out. The egg sat cold on the counter inside, forgotten, and I didn't care. I wasn't sobbing or shouting, just standing there, letting the cold sink in, wondering how it got this far. It wasn't about the money. Not really, it was the way they saw me. A tool when it suited them, a problem when it didn't. I went back inside, locked the door, and turned off the porch light. Something in me shifted that night, not a break, but a letting go. Like setting down a bag you didn't realize was so heavy until it was gone. Dad's birthday came on a chilly November Saturday, and I stayed home, far from the celebration I'd been barred from. By mid-afternoon, I was curled up on the couch with a mug of tea gone cold, the TV muttering a cooking show I wasn't watching. The house felt too big, the quiet pressing in, and I kept picturing their dining room an hour away, Mum bustling with platters, Dad's gravelly laugh, Liam playing the perfect son. I'd cancelled their payments weeks ago, but I hadn't braced myself for how it had hit them today. Around 4:00 p.m., my phone lit up with a FaceTime call from Aunt Nora, my mum's younger sister, the only one who'd ever really checked in. I hesitated, then answered, propping the phone against a cushion. Her face filled the screen, flushed from the party, the background a blur of familiar wallpaper and chatter. "Sophie," she whispered, leaning close. "It's a mess here. The power's out cut off this morning, and the grocery delivery never showed. They're scrambling." I froze, the mug slipping in my hands. Those were my threads, the ones I'd snipped, unraveling now when they'd least expect it. "They're blaming each other," she went on, "but nobody's saying your name." I nodded, a lump forming in my throat, not guilt, but a strange, hollow pang. I'd wanted them to notice, but not like this. Then the camera shifted as she turned, catching the room relatives milling around a dark kitchen, candles flickering on the counter. I saw Liam, tie loosened, pouring wine like nothing was wrong, and beside him, a woman, Clara, I guessed tall and poised, her smile tight as she chatted up an uncle. Aunt Nora murmured, "That's her, the charity gal everyone's fawning over." I watched, my chest tightening, when Clara's eyes flicked to the screen. She paused mid-sentence, and her face changed recognition, sharp and sudden. "Sophie," she said, loud enough to cut through the noise. "From Denver, truth seekers." My breath hitched. How did she know me? The room stilled, heads turning, and Aunt Nora swung the phone back to her, wide-eyed. "You know her?" she asked Clara, voice curious. I didn't speak, just sat there, the couch creaking under me as I shifted. Clara stammered, I've heard of her work," but her tone was off shaky, like she'd been caught. Liam stepped in, laughing too loud. "She's nobody, just my sister." But his eyes darted to the phone, uneasy. Aunt Nora pressed, "What's Denver Truth Seekers?" And Clara waved it off, "Just some little blog," though her hands fidgeted with her glass. The relatives murmured, "Doc confused," and I felt a chill, not fear, but a spark of something waking up. She knew me, my firm, my reputation, but why? The call wobbled as Aunt Nora moved to the porch, the screen dimming in the dusklight. "What was that about?" she asked, her voice low, her breath puffing in the cold. I swallowed, my mouth dry. "I don't know," I said, though my mind was racing. "She's hiding something." Nora frowned, glancing back at the house. "They're all acting like she's the queen bee. Liam's bragging she's untouchable, big donors, big plans." I nodded, slow, the pieces not fitting yet. "Keep an eye on her," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. She promised she would, then hung up, leaving me staring at a blank screen. I set the phone down, the room dark now except for the TV's flicker. My tea sat untouched, a thin film forming on top, and I pulled a throw blanket over my legs. The party played out in my head, candles instead of lights, store-bought rolls instead of Mom's usual spread, all because I'd stopped being their safety net. I didn't feel triumph, just a quiet ache, like missing a step on the stairs. Clara's reaction gnawed at me, though her flinch, her lie. I knew that look from years of chasing stories, Someone cornered. I stood, stretched, and shuffled to the kitchen, flipping on the light. The day wasn't over, and neither was this. I rinsed my mug, the water warm against my cold fingers, and decided then, whatever she was hiding, I'd find it. Not for them, for me. The mountains loomed outside, steady as ever, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I was standing on solid ground again. Clara's slip on Aunt Nora's call stuck with me like a splinter I couldn't pull out. Sunday morning, I woke early, the sky still dark over the mountains, and brewed coffee instead of tea, something stronger for what I was about to do. I sat at my desk, the house silent, except for the drip of the coffee maker, and opened my laptop. Denver Truth Seekers wasn't just some little blog, it was my life's work, and if Clara knew it, she wasn't saying why. I started digging into her charity, Hands of Hope, my fingers steady on the keys despite the unease curling in my gut. Public records, donor reports, anything I could access. I wasn't sure what I'd find, but I couldn't shake the feeling she'd recognized me for a reason. By noon, after hours of cross-checking, I hit something, a discrepancy in their financials. Donations listed as program funds were funneled to an offshore account, buried under layers of vague expense reports. I leaned back, the chair groaning, and rubbed my eyes. It wasn't sloppy enough to be a mistake, it was deliberate. Hands of Hope was a front, siphoning money, while Clara smiled for the cameras. I printed the evidence bank transfers, a shell company in the Caymans, and spread it across my desk, the paper cool under my hands. My heart thudded, not with shock, but with a quiet, burning clarity. She was a fraud, and my family had staked everything on her. That evening, as I was reheating leftover soup on the stove, my phone rang Liam. I let it buzz twice, stirring the pot, before picking up. "Sophie," he snapped. "No, hello. Clara's freaking out. Says you're sabotaging her with your nosy crap. Fix this, or we're done for good." The spoon stilled in my hand, steam rising past my face. "Sabotaging," I said, my voice low. "I didn't do anything yet," he huffed. "She's on to you, whatever you're digging up. Stop. She's our future." I set the spoon down, the soup bubbling softly, and felt a slow heat rise, not loud anger, but something sharper, deeper. "Your future's a lie, Liam. I've got proof." He paused, then barked, "You're full of it," and hung up. I stood there, the kitchen warm and dim, and let the silence settle. He didn't ask what I meant, didn't care, just another wall thrown up against me. Monday morning, I walked into my office, my spare bedroom with a desk and a filing cabinet, and laid out the evidence for my small team. There's just 3 of us, me and 2 freelancers, but they're sharp. I told them everything: Clara's charity, the offshore accounts, how she was tied to my brother, she's family, sort of. I said, my voice catching on the words, "But this is bigger than that." They stared at the papers, then at me. "You sure?" asked Jen, my editor, her brow creased. "She's a con, and they're blind to it," I said, tapping the desk. "We run it." They nodded, hesitant but in, and I felt a flicker of pride, not loud, just steady. This was mine to do. That night, I sat on the porch with a blanket, the air sharp with coming snow. The soup sat heavy in my stomach, and I held a glass of water, watching my breath puff in the cold. Liam's call replayed in my head, his threat to cut me off like I hadn't already been pushed out. I thought of Mom and Dad fawning over Clara at the party, oblivious to the mess she'd built. They'd chosen her shine over me, and now I held the match to burn it down. It wasn't revenge. Not exactly, it was about the truth. The kind I'd spent years chasing for strangers, now turned on my own blood. I went inside, locked the door, and stood in the hallway, the house creaking as it settled. The evidence sat on my desk, a quiet weight, and I knew what came next. The story would drop, and they'd feel it, not just the power going out, but the ground shifting under them. I climbed the stairs to bed, the steps familiar under my socks, and paused at the top. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel small, just tired, resolute, like I'd found my footing after stumbling too long. The mountains loomed outside my window, dark and still, and I knew I wasn't done fighting, not for them, but for what I'd always stood for. The expos hit the web on a grey Wednesday morning, 2 weeks after Dad's party. I titled it Hands of Hope, a charity built on sand, and by noon, it was rippling. Local news picked it up, donors called for audits, and Clara's pristine image cracked wide open. I sat at my kitchen table, a half-eaten bagel in front of me, scrolling through the comments on my site. "Thank you," one read. "She fooled us all," said another. I should have felt vindicated, but the knot in my chest wouldn't loosen. That night, my phone buzzed with a voicemail from Dad. I pressed play, bracing myself as I stirred a pot of chili on the stove, the smell sharp and warm. "Sophie," he growled, "you've humiliated us. Clara's ruined, lost her job, her reputation. Liam's a wreck, and it's on you. You're dead to me." The line clicked off, and I stood there, spoon dripping, the heat from the burner too close. I turned it down, my hands steady but my breath uneven. Dead to him. The words echoed, not loud, but heavy, like a door slamming shut in a house I'd once known. I set the phone on the counter and leaned against it, the cool edge pressing into my palms. I'd expected anger, maybe blame, but not this final cut. The chili simmered, a quiet bubble breaking the silence, and I stared at it, feeling the weight of being the villain in their story when I'd only held up a mirror. That's when Mom called, her name flashing on the screen. I answered, too tired to dodge it. "Sophie," she said, her voice thick with tears. "Clara took $5.0 from us, said it was for the charity. It was your money, the stuff you sent. We're broke now. Help us sue her, please." I closed my eyes, the steam rising past my face. My money, $5.0 of the $11.20 I'd wired over years gone, handed to a con, because they trusted her over me. "Mom," I said, slow, "I can't." "That's on you," she sobbed. "But we're family." And I hung up, gentle but firm, the phone clicking softly in my hand. I ladled the chili into a bowl, the steam fogging my glasses, and sat alone at the table. They'd squandered my help, then begged for more, and I felt hollow, not angry, just drained, like a well run dry. An hour later, a text from Liam. "You're selfish. Clara was our future, and you torched it. Fix this." I read it twice, the bowl cooling in front of me, and didn't reply. Their delusion stung worse than the rejection. Clara, their golden ticket, had robbed them blind, and I was still the bad guy. I pushed the bowl away and walked to the living room, sinking into the couch. The TV was off, the room lit only by a lamp casting soft shadows on the walls. I pulled a throw over my legs, the fabric worn from years of use, and sat there, letting the quiet wrap around me. They'd lost everything: money, pride, their shining star, and turned on me, not her. I thought of the years I'd sent cash, picturing it now in Clara's hands, spent on lies while I sat here eating chili, alone. It wasn't fair, but it wasn't new, just another layer of the same old hurt, peeling back, slow and raw. Later, I stood at the sink, washing the bowl, the water warm against my cold fingers. Outside, snow dusted the yard, catching the porch light, and I watched it fall, flake by flake. Dad's voice replayed, "You're dead to me," and Mom's plea, Liam's blame, all piling up like the snow. I didn't cry, didn't yell, just scrubbed the bowl harder, the sponge rasping against ceramic. I'd given them so much, and they'd thrown it away, then pointed fingers when it crumbled, drying my hands. I hung the towel on its hook, the motion automatic, and turned off the light. The house settled into darkness, a creak here, a sigh there, and I climbed the stairs to bed, my steps heavy but sure. They'd made their choice, and I'd made mine, not to fight them, but to let them go. The snow kept falling outside, soft and relentless, burying what was left of us under something I couldn't touch. A month after the expos, I was shoveling snow off my driveway when a rental car pulled up, its tires crunching the ice. Mom and Dad stepped out, bundled in coats, their faces drawn like they'd aged a decade. I leaned on the shovel, breath puffing in the cold, and waited. They'd come unannounced, an hour's drive from home, and I knew it wasn't just to say hello. Inside, we sat in the living room, mugs of coffee steaming on the table. Dad spoke first, his voice softer than I'd ever heard. "We're sorry, Sophie. Things got out of hand." Mum nodded, eyes red. "We didn't mean for it to end like this." I sipped my coffee, the warmth steadying me, and listened. Then Dad's tone shifted. We're family, though. We need help $3. Oh, a month to get back on our feet after Clara. I set the mug down, the clink loud in the quiet. Liam's pitching in too, I asked. Calm, my gaze steady. Mom fidgeted. He's struggling. The breakup hit him hard. I nodded, not surprised, then said, match what he gives, or sign over the cabin as collateral. My voice was even. Dad's face darkened, and he stood, slamming a hand on the table, coffee sloshing. We raised you, and you're haggling like a stranger. I didn't flinch, just met his eyes. Leave my house, I said, quiet but firm. They grabbed their coats, the door shutting hard behind them, and I sat there, the room still humming with their anger. Weeks later, Liam texted, I'm sorry. Talk to Clara, she'll confess if you ask. Please. I read it over breakfast, oatmeal cooling in the bowl, and didn't reply. His regret came too late, tied to a favor, just like always. 3 years passed after that, no calls, no letters. Not even a how's the weather. I kept living shoveling snow, writing stories, sipping coffee on the porch as the mountains turned gold at dusk. They didn't reach out, and I stopped waiting. I used to think family was a lifeline, a warm circle you could always step back into no matter what. But I've learned it's not always so. Sometimes it's a weight, pulling you down with expectations dressed up as love. Walking away wasn't cold, it was breathing again. Letting go of a rope that only tied me to their needs. If they only see you when they're sinking, they don't see you at all. They see a lifeline, not a daughter, not a sister. Real family doesn't demand your soul to prove you belong. It holds you up, not the other way around. I'm not bitter now, just clear. I've built a life here small, but mine, and that's enough. The snow falls outside. The mountains stand watch. And I'm okay not because I won, but because I stopped losing myself to them. Thank you for spending your time with the story. It truly means a lot. Every family drama hides a quiet pain, a silent cry, or a feeling no one talks about. If this story made you feel anything, anger, sadness, or even comfort, drop a comment below. You might be putting into words what someone else has always felt but never said.